Hey guys, this is Ken from Vertibox, and you're watching another episode of the Marvel Heroes Leveling Guide. On this episode, we're going to take a look at Captain America, the super soldier who fights for liberty. On this show, we're going to give you a broad overview of Captain America. We're going to look at what skills are worth investing in and which skills are not worth investing in, and give you a general sense of how he plays. Captain America embodies what every class in an action RPG should be, a character that has great balance and a very deep design. I have to be honest with you guys, I don't even like Captain America, and I actually want to play him as my starter hero. He's that good. The thing I notice most with Captain America is that he has no apparent weakness. He's basically good at everything. Let's see, he has amazing melee abilities that stun enemies, he has awesome single target damage skills, he has incredible range DPS skills, and on top of that, he's a tank. Overall, I just thought Captain America was a lot of fun to play, and I think if you guys give him a chance, you guys are going to have a hell of a lot of fun playing him too. And with that, let's focus on the skill trees. The first skill tree is Living Legend, and this houses all of Captain America's amazing melee abilities. Man, there are so many great melee abilities here that you won't have enough points to get them all. The first ability is called Opening Strike, which is Captain America's basic attack. It is just a simple punch, but there's actually a lot more going on under the hood. While it is true that you can only attack one enemy at a time with this skill, it has a very fast attack rate at 2.5 attacks per second. It also applies a defense debuff, which means that you'll be doing additional damage that you don't see on screen. This is going to make the punch do a lot more damage while you're leveling. However, during the endgame, because of the way defense scaling and damage scaling works, it's not going to be too effective. The last thing I want to say about the punch is that there are some abilities that toss out Captain America's shield into the environment, and at those times, the punch is actually going to be a much better basic attack than other basic attacks would have been. Ultimately, it's really up to your playstyle as to how many points you want to put into the skill. If you want to use the next basic attack, then you only need to place 1 point here unless you're trying to opt for a synergy bonus. However, if you're going to use a lot of the shield tosses and things like that, then you may very well want to max this skill and actually use it as your basic attack. The next skill in the tree is called Shield Strike, and this is one of those times where the upgraded attack isn't strictly better than the primary one. Shield Strike has a lot going for it. Like Ms. Marvel's Photon Punch, it has that AoE arc which lets you hit multiple enemies at a time. In addition to that, it applies a slow debuff to the mobs too, reducing their attack and movement speed. Now while all of that sounds wonderful, this skill is going to do a lot less damage compared to Opening Strike against single targets, which I think is far more valuable. Captain America has amazing AoE abilities that we're going to get into, so I would actually recommend not taking this skill unless you want to apply a synergy bonus to Opening Strike. The next skill on the tree is called Shield Swipe, and I find it to be pretty underwhelming. Basically, Captain America swipes his shield, hitting every enemy in a 360-degree radius. Now, I know we haven't talked about Captain America's secondary resource system, so let's tackle that here. Captain America has a shield point system where some abilities generate the shield points, while other abilities like Shield Swipe spend them. In this case, if you have a shield point available, it's going to knock back all the enemies, so you might say that this is a pretty good utility skill. However, Captain America's AoE abilities are just so amazing, and if you do find yourself in gridlock, there are ways to get out of that too. I don't really recommend placing any points here. Shield Bash is an absolute powerhouse of a skill. Basically, Captain America bashes an enemy with the shield and stuns them, doing incredible damage. Now I realize that the damage shown on the screen here isn't very high. It's because I didn't have enough skill points to show it to you, but trust me, if you max this, it's going to do a ton of damage. I'd also like to point out that the skill only costs 10 spirit, and it even provides the shield point. I mean, absolutely incredible. However, as crazy as it sounds, Captain America has even better skills, so you won't have enough skill points to put here. Even though the stun effect doesn't always work on bosses, I think this skill is perfect for a tank build. Unfortunately, it doesn't really suit our leveling strategy, so I can't really recommend to place any points here. The next tree for Captain America is the Super Soldier tree. Now, there's not really a whole lot going on here, however there are two important abilities you need to place one skill point in each. The first is Dynamic Charge, and it works very similarly to how other faster movement speeds in the game work. It's going to help you move around the map a lot faster, it's going to help you get those experience orbs and health orbs a lot quicker, and in addition to that, it's going to help you get out of the gridlock because of the game's poor collision detection. The skill provides a little bit of damage, but that's not really the skill's function. It also applies a knockdown effect too, and even with just one skill point it's at 50%, which is not bad. It's better than what you get with other characters. Heroic Charge is basically a strict upgrade, and I can't imagine a situation where you'd want to use Dynamic Charge over this. In addition to applying the damage and knockdown chances of Dynamic Charge, it gives Captain America a little bit of damage immunity. While leveling, I think placing a skill point here is probably not too bad of an idea. 200 damage absorbed is pretty good considering what your life total is. However, for the endgame, I'm not really sure how the damage absorption is going to scale with life totals, so we'll just have to wait and see. The next two abilities in the Super Soldier tree are the Shouts, and I gotta be honest, I'm not super excited for these abilities while leveling. Encouraging Shout gives you and your allies faster movement speed and attack speed, while Spirited Shout gives everyone a higher maximum spirit. All of the Shouts cost a whopping 25 spirit, and they only have a 10-second duration. I can certainly imagine a build where Captain America tanks damage and inspires everyone around him, but that's not really going to help us for leveling purposes, so I wouldn't recommend placing any points here. Lastly, we're going to take a look at the Shield Slinger tree, and man, this tree is just filled with overpowered goodness. My only concern here is I'm going to tell you guys to max out all these skills, and then Gazillion is going to nerf the crap out of it. Let's just hope that that doesn't happen because there's so many awesome skills to pick from here. The first skill in the tree is Shield Toss, and man, this thing is awesome. Basically, Captain America flings his shield out and hits all the enemies in a straight line, and then when it comes back, it hits them all over again. But the thing is, you don't even have to hit multiple enemies for this thing to be useful, because even if you only hit one enemy, it's already paid for itself. This skill is your boss killer because it's the best single target damage that Captain America has. On top of this, it only costs 10 spirits, so you can spam the crap out of it, and it's ranged. I mean, my god, it's ranged. This thing is even more broken than Miss Marvel's Photon Punch because you do the damage once and then you do it again, but while your shield is flinging, you do your basic attacks in the meantime, so you're just doing an insane amount of DPS. This skill is awesome. Now, after all of this hype, I'm sure I don't have to tell you guys this, but I highly recommend maxing this skill. Next up is Shield Bounce, and this is Captain America's best ranged AoE ability. The mechanics are very similar to Cyclops' Ricochet Blast, but it works a little bit different. Because Captain America only has one shield, he can't spam it like Cyclops can, and it also costs 25 spirit. But the one thing that makes Shield Bounce better is that you can continue to use your basic attacks while the shield is bouncing off enemies, which means you're going to be doing a lot more DPS in the long run. The one thing I love about Captain America's skill trees is that these quote-unquote upgrade skills are not necessarily replacements, they're just entirely different skills that sort of play off of each other. So I would recommend maxing this and putting it on your right click, but also putting Shield Toss on your bar as well. The fact that these skills synergize is just gravy on top. I would honestly pick these skills even if they didn't synergize. The next skill is Quick Block, and it's a skill that I really would have liked to have tested more to understand it better. Basically, when you activate it, it's going to block all incoming damage for a specific time period, like say 2.5 or 2.8 seconds. It's going to apply a defense bonus and give you an extra bit of damage to your basic attack. Now, some people on the forums have reported that when you max this, you can become invulnerable with it. However, when I tried this skill, that most certainly wasn't the case. I found that the skill costs a little too much spirit, and I'm guessing you really have to max this skill at high levels to get the effect that people have been saying on the forums. The last skill we're going to talk about is Combat Veteran, and it gives you a defensive buff for every shield point that you have. For leveling purposes, I would highly recommend placing any remaining skill points here because the defensive bonus you get from this skill is absolutely insane. To put this in perspective, I didn't even have 200 defense on my gear when I was level 15, so the prospect of getting another 200 defense from this skill is absolutely crazy. And I gotta tell you guys, the bosses in this game hit extremely hard, so that extra defense is very relevant. Well, that wraps up our leveling guide for Captain America. Hopefully you've learned a lot on how to best level him up. Now, before we close off this episode, I just want to leave you guys with a comment. I think that Captain America is an amazingly well-designed and balanced character. He offers a lot of build variety that we just don't see with other characters in Marvel heroes. I generally feel that if Gazillion had applied this much depth to all of the other characters in the game, I think we'd have an action RPG renaissance. Let's hope that Gazillion doesn't bring out the Nerf hammer and spoil our fun, because Captain America is a lot of fun to play. I think as a community we need to push Gazillion into designing characters a lot more like this, and a lot less like Cyclops. So what do you guys think of Captain America and Marvel Heroes? Is he a well-designed character? Is Is he balanced? Is he overpowered? Please let us know in the comments below. And if you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe. Really appreciate it. Thanks for watching.